Thanks, Susie. Please be seated. I'm going to ask a bit of audience participation in a moment. A few years back, I went and saw a play at the Belvoir Street Theatre, Every Brilliant Thing. Has anybody seen that? Oh, somebody over there. Just one actor, a chap by the name of Steve Rogers, but there was lots of involvement by the audience who were called upon to play certain roles and to shout out a list of things that make life worth living. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to shout out things that you think make Christmas worth celebrating. I don't know whether you're up for that. We'll do it in a minute. But back to the play, which begins with Steve Rogers in the role of a 7-year-old boy. He's just a kid, and he tries to do something to cheer his mum up. She's really unhappy, down in the dumps, not in a good place. And he wants to bring her a bit of joy and a bit of peace. So he starts writing a list of everything that he thinks is brilliant with the world, everything worth living for. He makes a list and he leaves it on his mum's pillow. And he knows she's read it because she corrects his spelling. Here's some of the items on his list of brilliant things. And in the play, someone in the audience would shout them out. As the audience arrived, they were given a piece of paper with a number and a brilliant thing on it. And when their number was called, they had to shout it out. So the list of brilliant things: 1, ice cream. 2, water fights. 3, staying up past your bedtime and being allowed to watch TV. 4, the colour yellow. 5, things with stripes. 6, roller coaster rides. 7, people falling over. All things that at 7 he thought were just really, really good. And eventually his list wasn't just 7, it was 8 pages long. His list to cheer up his mum, with 314 things on it under the heading, Every Brilliant Thing, which is, of course, the name of the play. I'm going to leave that particular play there, except to say that his list continues. 10 years later, he'd forgotten about the list till his mum once again reaches rock bottom. She's severely depressed. And he continues with his efforts to cheer her up, to bring her a bit of joy, to bring her a bit of peace. 319, laughing so hard you shoot milk out of your nose. 761, deciding you're not too old to climb trees. 993, having dessert as main course. 997, cycling downhill. And he reached 1,000 things that were genuinely wonderful and genuinely life-affirming. And so it goes. He falls in love in his 20s, he finds the list and he adds to it, and so on in his life. 123,321 palindromes. 777,777 dressing up as a Mexican wrestler. 999,999 completing a task, and he makes it to 1 million. 1 million brilliant things about the world. Now, we're not going to get that far, but 10 brilliant things about Christmas Day, about what you've enjoyed in the past or what you're looking forward to today. This is a school teacher in me. Let's see what we've got. 10 brilliant things about Christmas. What do I hear? Early morning swim at Bondi. Early morning swim at Bondi. Pay that one. Yes. Presents. Is there much better? You've got to remember, I'm getting old. I'm semi-deaf these days. Yes. Family. Was that family? Family, fantastic. What else have we got? Brilliant things at Christmas. The family coming together. I've got my first time with all my kids together this Christmas, this very day, for the first time in a couple of years. Fantastic. Yes?
Raining candy.
Christmas candy?
Candy from the sky,
Raining candy. Raining. All right. Yes.
Christmas carols.
Christmas carols. All right. Christmas carols. There we go. I do remember, yes, barbecues. Barbecues. Oscar. Presents again. Presents deserves a double up. I think we're going to leave that there, but many brilliant things. I'd actually add my own. If I was to add my own, I'd add Christmas carols to what we just heard. And it's one of the things that we used to do as a family. We'd have a long day, and then at about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night, we'd gather around, and it was really for my dad's sake. And we did it when my mum was alive. Mum died last year, and my dad still had his memory. And we'd gather around, all the kids, all the grandkids, and we would sit in the lounge room, and 3 generations of us would sing Christmas carols, up to 20 Christmas carols. It was just fantastic. I must admit, some of my nephews and nieces couldn't wait to leave, but I did not want it to end. Anyway, 10 brilliant things about Christmas. That's the first of 2 plays I have with me today. Every brilliant thing. The second is this one, The Christmas Truce. And this play was performed in 2014, 100 years after the event that first inspired it. And you'll know the story. It's World War I. The soldiers are in the trenches, the English and the Germans, experiencing a world seemingly devoid of peace and goodwill, when something astonishing, something brilliant happens. Across no man's land, the English hear music. The German soldiers are singing. It's Christmas Eve and they're singing carols. And leaving the trenches, the soldiers go and they meet their enemies, not to fight, but to talk, to exchange gifts, and to celebrate Christmas. And the next day, together, they play an unforgettable game of football, of soccer. Truth to tell, as some of the playgoers who went and saw the play said, it's hard to shake the suspicion that this play is a somewhat sanitised and confected version of the actual events. But when you get to the part where Silent Night rings out across no man's land, it's even harder not to be stirred by that combination of singing and greeting and meeting and handshakes and so on. And it's a play that gets to the very heart of what Christmas can and should be all about, an experience of peace, because our Christmas tradition insists that the birth of the Christ child was the birth of someone who did what he could to establish peace. What did we sing earlier? What was the song that heralded his birth? All glory be to God on high, and on the earth be peace. Goodwill henceforth from heaven to earth, begin and never cease. All glory be to God on high, and on the earth be peace. Today we celebrate that the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst us, full of truth and grace, the embodiment of our highest ideals and values and of our deepest longings and hopes, the incarnation of the God who is peace and compassion and justice and forgiveness and mercy personified. Well, let me draw this little Christmas reflection, this little reflection on Christmas to a close by referencing one of Australia's literary and media exports, the boy from Cogra, where I grew up, down in the St George area, the late, great Clive James, who died not so long ago in his home in Cambridge, aged 80 years old, and who in his later years spoke of Christmas in a particularly telling way. His little granddaughter, he was sick. His little granddaughter was much on his mind. Her parents were, he said, classic believers in a way that he was not. But he said, Christmas is for all because Jesus is for all. We're lucky to have him, he said. And in this season wherein his birth is celebrated, I give him much thought. So said Clive James. Clearly, he was brave beyond our imagination, he continued. He embodied that, courage, bravery. He proved that many times, including the time he faced a crowd that wanted to stone to death a woman caught in adultery. And the generosity of his intervention at that moment set a new mark for all time. The Christmas will come, he said, when my little granddaughter will want to know more about just whose birthday Christmas is. And there's one important thing that even I will be able to tell her, which is that Jesus, the first great man to be a champion of women, believed in her. And that alone would be sufficient cause to bless every night and day of the season wherein his birth is celebrated. If we are wise, never will the memory of that man ever die. So spoke Clive James. If we are wise, never will the memory of that man ever die. So one more brilliant thing about Christmas. You are here, all of you, each of you today. And one of the things that we are doing is keeping the memory of that man alive. Peace be with you. And may peace and courage and compassion and generosity and all that he embodied be experienced far and wide in this season wherein his birth is celebrated. Amen.